Hey, what's up guys? Today's video is going to be a little bit of a different video from what I typically make. With Need for Speed World's 5th year anniversary of getting permanently shut down today, I thought it would be the perfect time to go over the history of what happened to Need for Speed World. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and allow me to take you on a nostalgia trip down memory lane to the history of Need for Speed World and why Need for Speed World died. So Need for Speed World was the first Need for Speed MMO in the series. Some people might say Motor City Online was the first Need for Speed MMO in this series, but to me, I'd say Need for Speed World is the first MMO game in this series. So the development team at Black Box started development on Need for Speed World shortly after the release of Need for Speed Carbon, but it wasn't until 2008 when they are intensively developing Need for Speed World shortly after the release of Need for Speed Undercover.
How did we come up with the idea of doing a worldwide online game for Need for Speed?
Well, about 7 years ago, I was hired at EA out of Microsoft to build a Need for Speed MMO. And about 6 months in, I said, this cannot be done. We did some other things. The whole time, though, I was kind of cooking up ideas for what we could do with an online-only version of Need for Speed. And we had a few abortive attempts where we kind of got the game started and a bunch of design done. And finally, we got the kind of the resources and the design together. I guess about 4 years ago, and really started cranking away at building it full time. So it came out of a lot of thinking and a lot of arguing, and took about 3.5 years in order to get that design to a place where we were comfortable building it. But that's how we got there.
Cool. However, shortly after the release and failure of Need for Speed Undercover, EA announced they would be restructuring Black Box in a month later, in December 2008. Just 1 week after Electronic Arts Inc. trashed its plans to build a new studio in Yaletown, the video game giant has announced it will shut down its Black Box facility in downtown Vancouver. The development teams and game franchises produced at the Black Box studio will be moved to the EA Canada studio in Burnaby, according to a press release issued by the Redwood City, California-based company this morning, December 19th. With a smaller development team at Black Box, this will unfortunately affect the development of Need for Speed World. Need for Speed World was first announced to be free to play. There was a beta in 2009 that was limited to Asian players, specifically players from Taiwan. This Asian beta lasted from October 14, 2009 till October 21, 2009. And content was very limited in this beta, such as races only taking place in Silverton. After this Asian beta ended, things became silent for a short while, as I would assume the developers were working on the game and collecting feedback from the Taiwan players. After a couple months had passed by, the Need for Speed World official website was officially launched on February 1st, 2010. Also, EA released a beta announcement trailer to revive the hype that could have been lost due to the amount of months of development from the Asian beta. EA saw there was also demand for Need for Speed World in the West, not just in Asia. So EA decided to release Need for Speed World worldwide instead of releasing it in specific regions like the Asia region. And it's a very good thing that they chose to do this, as we could have missed out, or at least the players in the West could have missed out on a Need for Speed MMO. During the months of March and April of 2010, the game had 3 closed beta sessions, and the game looked like this. Reception for these 3 closed betas are quite positive. People really like the game. One of the main complaints about the game in the betas was the game was lacking game modes. When the first closed 3 betas started, there were only like 3 game modes: circuit, sprint, and pursuits. But despite these lack of game modes, people had fun playing Need for Speed World in these beta stages, that whenever the beta is actually over, people would want to play the game again. It wasn't until closed beta 4, which happened in May 2010, which added the premium currency. As we all know, it's called Speed Boost. Speed Boost. Speed Boost has been added to each persona. Items such as power-ups and rental cars can now be purchased using Speed Boost. In a way, this can be kinda seen as pay to win, as power-ups can only be won from playing the game, from playing events, and they can't be bought with in-game cash. But mostly people didn't have a problem with it, myself included. With the next 2 closed betas, the game looked like this. The game looked like this for the next 2 closed betas from May 2010 to mid-June 2010. This was when I first started participating in the closed beta test, as I didn't know about the game when the first 3 closed beta tests happened. And personally, after watching footage of the first 3 closed beta tests, I prefer the avatars, like the people avatars from the first 3 closed beta tests, rather than the avatars we got now. Similar to the earlier beta test, the reception for the game was still positive, and people wanted to play more. And it's the same for me too when I participate in these beta tests. During the 5th closed beta test session, EA revealed a Need for Speed World Starter Pack purchases. I won't go over everything in the Starter Pack for the sake of this video, but basically the Starter Pack gives players that purchase it the ability to progress past level 10. That's pretty much what the main thing about the Starter Pack gives. It also includes $20 worth of speed boost, which would have been 8,000 speed boost, and double the amount of power-ups to all newly created drivers in the account, and 1 exclusive vehicle, which varies from wherever you purchase the starter pack from. So from an EA store or from GameStop, etc. Feedback from the starter pack was mostly negative, because the game was initially first announced to be free to play, and with this starter pack, this pretty much means the game isn't free to play at all, but instead it's pay to play or buy to play. So in a way, this could be seen as false advertisement. With the starter pack limiting free players up to level 10, many people, including myself, were disappointed that we couldn't level up to level 50 like the starter pack users could. With the 6th closed beta that happened on June 28, 2010 till June 30, 2010, there was quite a number of added content to the game. There was a new region added called Camden Beach in the 6th closed beta test session. This world map shows what was available to drive and unavailable to drive in the beta. Also, players were able to level up to level 50 in the beta, which translated to be the max level on the release. Unfortunately, I was not able to find a video that showcases the old performance upgrade packages in the beta. But basically, in earlier beta stages, cars could not have their performance customized. Instead, cars can only be purchased stock or tuned versions, with tuned versions offering improved performance over their stock counterparts. With the 6th closed beta test session, the devs introduced performance customization. Performance packages. Players can now customize their vehicle with a variety of performance packages that contain performance upgrades, as well as body kits, spoilers, etc. And this is what the game looked like in the 6th closed beta test session and the eventual release. Not much of the user interface was changed, as the dev team felt satisfied with the current user interface. With Black Box satisfied with the state of the game, they launched a 1-week head start for starter pack users from July 20th, 2010 to July 27th, 2010. And then they released the game for everyone else on July 27th, 2010. Because of the starter pack requirement of leveling past level 10 to level 50, I didn't play the game on the official release day, as I was outraged about spending $20 in order to unlock access to level 50. But that didn't stop people from joining and playing the game, and people were joining, and eventually the game reached 1 million account registrations. On September 9th, 2010, the day when the game reached 1 million account registrations, the dev team announced that they will be removing the level 10 restriction, the level 10 cap for free users, and making the game available for everyone to level up to level 50. This angered many starter pack users, and many felt like they were ripped off by EA. To compensate the starter pack users, EA gave them 3 tier 3 car rentals, which is a pretty lame compensation gift if you ask me. On the flip side, many people that played the game for free without paying for a starter pack were very excited about this change. I was among those that were excited about this change as well, as this was what brought me back to playing this game when the starter pack restriction pushed me away. Over time, the dev team added cars throughout the rest of 2010, and some cars were available for both in-game cash and speed boost, while other cars were only exclusively available for speed boost. But none of the speed boost cars had a performance advantage over the in-game cash cars, so everything was fine with adding cars throughout 2010. On October 26, 2010, 3 new world regions are added to the game: downtown Rockport, Kempton, and Fortuna. This would unfortunately be the last time new regions and areas would be added to the game, aside from the Rockport Turnpike being silently added in a later patch in 2010. Canyons were developed by the devs, but we'll get to that later. The map looked like this after the additions of the 3 new areas, and ultimately, the map stayed like this until the end of the game. On November 16, 2010, the dev team released the biggest update in Need for Speed World history, which was around 1 gigabyte size, and it featured a performance customization system overhaul. Unfortunately, I was unable to find a video that was in version 5.00, but I can at least describe it to you. So basically, at version 5.00 release, there were 3 stages of the performance part: Street, Race, and Pro, with Street being the lowest and Pro being the highest at the time, with Street performance parts affecting car performance slightly, and while Pro performance parts affect car performance significantly. And there were 3 different types of rarity for each performance part: Improved, Sport, and Tuned, with Improved being the basic performance part and Tuned being the most altered performance part, which gives the most bonuses, like bonus stats. There were also card packs that could be bought with in-game cash and speed boost. Players could buy the mystery performance pack with either in-game cash and speed boost, which just generates random rewards for you and doesn't guarantee you any performance parts. While the Bronze Performance Pack, Silver Performance Pack, and Gold Performance Pack can only be bought with speed boost, with Bronze guaranteeing at least 1 street performance part, Silver guaranteeing at least 1 race performance part, and also only street improved performance parts can be bought in the store with in-game cash. The rest of the performance parts at the time had to be won via playing events if a player chooses not to spend any money on speed boost. Also, performance parts were locked behind tiers. So there were tier 1 performance parts, tier 2 performance parts, and tier 3 performance parts. So it's like you can't use any tier 1 performance parts for your tier 3 performance parts. There were people that were outraged by this performance overhaul and would prefer the previous performance customization system. Despite the outrage from the performance overhaul system, the game is still getting registrations. And then on December 17, 2010, EA announced that Need for Speed World surpassed 3 million registered accounts. In EA's eyes, the game is still doing considerably well. Then, the unthinkable happened. On March 21st, 2011, the Lamborghini Murcielago made its appearance into Need for Speed World. The Murcielago could only be bought with speed boost, and it was better than the BMW M3 GTR in every way, which was the best tier 3 in-game cash car at the time, meaning the game is now pay to win with the introduction of the Murcielago. Without a doubt, there was a massive outrage among the Need for Speed World community about the addition of its first pay-to-win car. I was among those outraged and thought the game was trash upon the Murcielago's release. Despite this pay-to-win problem, there are people that still love playing Need for Speed World, and will still play it regardless if it's pay-to-win. A couple of days after the first pay-to-win car was released, the dev team released a new game mode called Team Escape on March 29, 2011. Team Escape was a cooperative game mode where you team up with other real players against the cop AIs to escape before time runs out or before you get busted. If you get busted, you consume a strike for the entire team and you respawn to the nearest teammate. If there are no more strikes left and you get busted, then it's game over for you. Along with cop AIs pursuing you and your teammates, there are also roadblocks with spike strips, and rhinos to dodge. For me, this was the only game mode, the only multiplayer game mode that was unaffected by any pay-to-win aspects. So I found this I found Team Escape really fun at the time. On April 29th, 2011, EA released Need for Speed The Run official announcement trailer. The game was being developed by Black Box, so now they had two games to develop, Need for Speed The Run and Need for Speed World. Most of the resources were put into Need for Speed The Run's development, so Need for Speed World was put on the back burner for Black Box. On June 28th, 2011, the devs added a new game mode, a game mode that you play daily called Treasure Hunt. What you do once a day is collect 15 gems to get a massive amount of weapon cash rewards. This can only be played once a day, and it's a daily treasure hunt, so it incentivizes players to come back and play the game every day. Unfortunately, the devs' focus on the second half of 2011 changed to adding more cars only available for speed boost purchases into the game, such as adding the Porsche 911 GT3 RS, which dethrones the Murcielago from before as the fastest tier 3 car in the game back then. Also, in the second half of 2011, there were quite a number of cheating issues that started plaguing the game, such as speed hack, acceleration hack, and those kind of hacks. On August 2011, shortly after the year 1 anniversary, Need for Speed World made its appearance at Gamescom 2011, and they had a live chat there, taking people's questions and answering them. Among the questions were canyons, like when's the canyons are gonna be released. They mentioned that the canyons were 95% done, and they just needed to add some game modes to the canyons.
So when come the canyons?
The canyons. Canyons are mostly done. I'd say 95% done. They need a couple things before we release them, though. The most important thing they need are some game modes that fit Need for Speed World, and we think we need some special cars for them too. So we're going to release the canyons when we have the whole package ready to go. I can tell you this though: the canyons will not be loaded. They will actually be a part of the world.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Fast forward to November 15, 2011, Need for Speed The One was released. This was one of the biggest events for Black Box, as this would determine whether they could still continue developing Need for Speed games after the massive failure of Need for Speed Undercover back in 2008. Unfortunately, the game wasn't successful. Also in EA's eyes, as the game failed to reach its sales target, the game was a failure in their eyes. Complaints of the game were lack of free roam around the USA, cars feeling heavy to drive, and a lack of customization options. It's a shame that Need for Speed The One was a failure, because I personally liked the game when I played it. I like that it took place in a real life location, like the USA, instead of a fictional city like previous Need for Speed games. I also like that it goes from San Francisco to New York, and it's like you don't like see the same location over and over and over again like in the previous Need for Speed games. So yeah, that I really like about Need for Speed The One as well. It's such a shame. On December 14, 2011, the 4th Spot the Devs event was held, and the car featured was the Koenigsegg CCX Elite Edition. There were 3 other cars featured in 3 previous Spot the Devs events, but none of those were as egregious as this one. Upon the conclusion of the Spot the Devs event, the devs released the CCX Elite, and upon checking out the store, players found that the CCX Elite costed 25,000 speed boost! Okay, let me repeat that again. 25,000 speed boost! Keep in mind that Need for Speed The One, it costed $59.99 at release. But this CCX Elite Edition, this would cost $64! Oh my god! There was without a doubt a massive outrage among the Need for Speed World community when the CCX released. So the dev team talked about the CCX Elite, and they also mentioned that they would make more of these Elite versions of cars.
So getting right into things, let's talk about the Koenigsegg CCX.
CCX
Yeah.
Elite. So a lot of you guys all over the social channels, the forums, are questioning, what makes this car so special. And we wanted to clarify it. With the CCX, that took months of work from the dev team and the car team. Over a dozen people spent, many months building this car. Now, this car is not for everybody. There's a lot of people, happy, a lot of people in outrage, more in the outrage. At the end of the day, you guys don't need to buy it. If you don't like it, don't buy it. This car is purely for people who are true car enthusiasts, who love the Koenigsegg brand, who love that car. Now, you guys are saying, oh, it's not the fastest car in the game. Of course not. You can imagine the uproar you guys would be if we
you
made
can't
it
buy victory,
Exactly.
Yeah.
We didn't deliberately make the car the most elite buy performance. Now, it is definitely one of the fastest tier 3s. You compete with the top 5 tier 3s, definitely. But what makes this car unique, and I have basically a rundown of all the things
list,
I'd love to go through it. There's a lot of subtleties that you probably don't know from a beauty standpoint of this car, and that's only for a certain amount of taste. Now, for Need for Speed World, there's in-game cash cars, there's cars tier 1s, 2s, 3s of all price values, and now we're bringing in premium elite cars. This is for a niche group of people that love these type of cars, and we will make more of them. Definitely. If you don't like them, don't buy them. Again, there's many other cars for you guys to have.
They confirmed that they would make more elite cars in the future, which is pretty much a bad sign for the game, as these elite cars are really overpriced. Also, the devs mentioned in the Ask Mark episode that the game reached 10 million registered accounts, which means that the game is still getting new players, even though like the game is pay to win and stuff like that, and also with the elite cards introductions.
And to clarify as well, we don't have 2 million users, we don't have 3 million users, we don't have 6 million users, we don't have 8 million users. We have 10 million users.
We hit that on Tuesday.
We hit that, yeah, we hit that this week.
Even though Need for Speed World was still growing strong with 10 million registered accounts, there was some bad news regarding Black Box themselves. On February 3rd, 2012, like at the beginning of 2012, EA laid off a number of the Black Box devs. The publisher wouldn't put an exact figure on how many employees are affected. The cuts are a result of restructuring at the Vancouver office, which will see its studio in nearby Burnaby, which Need for Speed the Run team, EA Black Box is part of, shift focus to digital formats. EA in Vancouver is transforming its studio to align with EA's transformation to high-growth digital formats, including online, social gaming, and free-to-play. A spokesperson for the publishers told Eurogamer. So why these layoffs happen is because of Need for Speed the Run's sales numbers. They failed to reach the game failed to reach the sales target according to EA, and that is why EA laid off a number of Black Box employees for the failure of Need for Speed the Run. The article did mention that Need for Speed World has 11 million registered accounts, so the game is still going strong despite the layoffs. Sometime in April 2012, the free roam chat was taken down for, quote, maintenance, as there were some hackers spamming the free roam chat with spam. So now Need for Speed World is less of an MMO racing game when people cannot talk to each other in free roam chat. They only could talk to each other when you're there like playing an event or something like that. And unfortunately, free roam chat was disabled all the way till the game's death. Throughout 2012, the game received 2 overhauls. The first of the 2 overhauls was the skill mod system. Before the skill mod change, there was this driver skill system before, and back then you had to like level up to get a driver skill point. Players can only get a maximum of 49 driver skill points in an account, as the maximum level was level 50 back then. The one problem with the driver skill system was that if you choose to use a driver skill on something, you can't undo it. And that's what many players complained about the driver skill system, the previous driver skill system. So the dev team, quote, listened to the community and gave the game a skill mod overhaul update as the solution for players not being able to undo any skills. Now the problem with the skill mod's overhaul update was that the skills can only be applied to one car at a time instead of being applied to all cars at a time with the previous driver skill system, meaning this will further increase the unnecessary grind for this game. Also, the skill mod's overhaul update reduces the accomplishment of leveling up to level 50, which was the max level at the time, as once the skill mod's overhaul came to the game, the leveling system only gave players unlocked access to certain tracks and cars. People were so outraged by the introduction of the skill mod's overhaul update that they even constantly asked the devs whether they would change back to the old driver skill system or not. The devs said no, and the skill mod system is here to stay.
When will we get the old skill system back?
So yeah, skill mod just came out. It's brand new. We're talking about the driver skill system, obviously, and it's brand new, and the plans is here to stay for now. And I know there's been a lot of knee-jerk reaction on forums and all that, but just stick it out and give it a try, and you'll probably like it.
All right.
There's some bad news for people that want new areas to drive in the game. On June 21st, 2012, Ask Mark episode 66 was released, and they mentioned that the canyons have been deprioritized and they're not coming out anytime soon, unfortunately. This left many players disappointed as players can only drive the same place over and over and over again for the next couple of months.
Canyons have been nearly finished for almost a year now. When can we expect the release?
Yeah. So every week we see Canyon questions. We wanted to sort of clarify it.
Put this one to bed, yeah.
Put this one to bed. Part of us being super open with our community is a lot of times things change. We're changing things a lot on the fly.
And we've said this a lot on various Ask Marks, is we'll have a plan in place, and then we'll get feedback from the community or some other factor will come in that will change the plans. This is how it is.
So we touch on this and a little bit later in a few more questions here, but short answer here is canyons have been deprioritized. They're not coming out anytime soon. I don't even think they're on the plan for this year, but that doesn't mean there's amazing content coming, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, no, there's a good reason they got prioritized. So you guys will be psyched.
A few months passed, and the second overhaul of the two overhauls was released on August 22, 2012, which is the Car Classes Overhaul update. There were some things good about the Car Classes Overhaul update, but the many bad things about the update overshadow the good things about the update. So the three good things about the Car Classes Overhaul update are like the cars, they're no longer locked behind Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 when customizing them. Instead, if a car is like Class D, it could possibly be upgraded to Class C, Class B, or even Class A. And the second good thing about Car Classes update is that performance parts are no longer locked behind tiers. So before Car Classes in the tier system, performance parts were locked behind either Tier 1 or Tier 2 or Tier 3, and those performance parts can only be used on specific tiers. Now with the Car Classes update, any performance parts can be used for any car. And the third good thing about Car Classes Overhaul update is that more car slots will be available for players. So before the Car Classes update, players can only have a maximum of 3 car slots before they have to spend real money to buy more car slots. Now with the Car Classes update, they get an additional 4 car slots upon reaching level 20, 30, 40, and 50. Although car slots from the get-go is already a bad thing, when in the tier system, players that play for free, that don't spend any money, only could have a maximum of 3 cars. And there's like, at the time before the Car Classes update, there was like over 20-30 cars to choose from. So little car slots available. And then with the Car Classes update, the players that don't spend any real money, they only could have a maximum of 7 cars after they got the 4 car slots from the Car Classes update. And by the time the Car Classes update came, there was like 50 cars, so there still weren't enough car slots to buy all cars in the game. Now, the biggest bad thing about the Car Classes update is that events had to be played on a specific day, as the devs introduced, quote, events of the day. All circuits, sprints, team escapes, and pursuit outruns were rotated every 24 hours, and this caused massive outrage among the Need for Speed World community. So much outrage that the dev team made Team Escapes permanent again after a short while, but kept the circuit and sprint races rotating and changed it to events of the week rather than events of the day. With the introduction of the Car Class Overhaul update, cars are no longer locked behind levels and all tracks are no longer locked behind levels, meaning leveling up has no meaning in this game anymore, except you just get a number on your profile, says level 50, and that's it. Even though the devs changed from events of the day to events of the week, players felt the game kept getting worse and worse and stopped playing the game and quit playing altogether. Regarding the cheating problem, back in 2011, the cheating problem continued to exist in 2012, throughout 2012, with speed hacks and acceleration hacks ruining the multiplayer races throughout 2012. On August 31st, 2012, the 67th episode of Ask Mark was posted, and that just so happens to be the last episode of Ask Mark. And they answered a bunch of questions, but one question that stood out was there going to be more areas to the game? They answered that no new areas were coming to the game anytime soon, unfortunately.
What are the plans for the connecting roads between Pelmont, Kipton, and Rockport? For this one, the basic overall question here is, what are our plans for adding more areas to the game? And that kind of works into the next question too, is what is the plan for Canyon? So we're gonna quickly answer the question: are we adding new areas? Is essentially what they're asking.
Yeah. So right now, new areas, no. Not a focus at all at the moment.
Yep.
We're very busy with drag
and
other progression
and other on and out stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
And then the next question is, what is the status of canyons, and when can we expect them to see this in the game? This is something that we've repetitively answered. We're going to put it to bed now.
Yeah, canyons are not on the priority list right now.
Nope.
Not this year and not early next year. Right now, it's just not a priority. So
right.
We will announce it when, trust me, we want to give you guys we did that mistake, what was it, over a year ago. We said, oh, we got canyons, and everybody just jumped on it saying we'll be, releasing it soon. Priorities shifted since then, so bear with us. We're trying to make the game that you guys would like to see, hence why we went to car classes, hence why we're making all these changes in progression.
Well, it's actually a good time to actually talk about this. So we've done the skill mods change, we've added car classes, and it's all towards an overall goal, which
which is one more big chunk coming towards the end of the year as well.
Yeah.
That will even enhance the gameplay as well. So
yeah, we're trying to. You'll see. Yeah, you'll see.
We'll give you guys more insight.
Okay.
On October 16, 2012, the devs released a new game mode called Drag. The objective of this game mode is to shift at the right time to get perfect shifts and those nitro boosts from those perfect shifts. A drag race in Need for Speed World would typically take about 10 to 20 seconds, and some drag races will have no traffic and some races will have traffic. Sadly, this would be the last game mode Need for Speed World would receive. On November 6, 2012, Need for Speed World surpassed 20 million registered users. Despite the changes of skill mods and car classes, Need for Speed World was still growing strong. Remember in the previous Ask Mark episode that they mentioned that they wouldn't make an elite car the fastest car in the game, the best car in the game?
Now, you guys are saying, oh, it's not the fastest car in the game. Of course not. You can imagine the uproar you guys would be if we
you can't buy victory, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, they went back on their words and they added the Mclaren F1 Elite Edition to the game. The Mclaren F1 Elite Edition was released on November 16, 2012, 3 days later after the 12 Spot the Devs event. And it costed 22,000 speed boost! Let me repeat that again. 22,000 speed boost! This is equivalent to $60 in real life. Also, the Mclaren F1 Elite Edition was perfect in everything. It had no flaws, no weaknesses whatsoever. High top speed, insane acceleration, insane handling. Yeah, this car does it all. It was the ultimate pay-to-win car. Not to mention it was also the most expensive car as well. Moving forward to 2013, and while the game was having cheating issues by cheaters using speed hacks, acceleration hacks, the game received one last big update to the game. On April 10th, 2013, the achievement system was implemented into the game. And with the achievement system came 6 cars exclusively to the achievements. So, especially with one car in particular. This achievement system gave veteran players something to do, such as collecting cars and getting wins and etc. Unfortunately, there was a side effect to this achievement system. It worsened the existing cheating problem from before, and made cheating worse as the cheaters had something to strive for, something to cheat for. Especially with the Bugatti Veyron 16.4, which was available only if you reach 5,000 driver points. Shortly after the achievement system was released, there had been some bad news to Black Box, or what they renamed themselves as Quicklime Games, since year 2 anniversary. EA announced there would be a series of layoffs during the restructuring process. Electronic Arts announced today that the company is undergoing an organizational restructure that has led to some difficult decisions to reduce the workforce in some locations. EA employees took to Twitter today to announce that EA Studios PopCap Vancouver and Quicklime Studio have shut down. Quicklime employees tweeted that all staff have been laid off as a result of the studio closure. With the shutdown of Quicklime Games, the fate of the game was uncertain for many players. Many players were scared they would lose their beloved game. But EA reassured to players that the game will still stay online and will not shut down. Behind the scenes during the transition phase, the old former Quicklime devs were teaching the new devs how to use the tools for Need for Speed World, like the developing tools for Need for Speed World. The transition phase took 6 months. After those 6 months had passed, the new devs called Easy Studios announced on September 2nd, 2013 that they will be taking over the development of Need for Speed World. This gave the player base some hope after the restructuring of Quicklime Games, or let's say the layoffs of Quicklime Games. However, that hope was short-lived through 2014. In-game cash car rotations weren't working properly, speed boost sales weren't working properly, and the 3 worst offenders, the extreme bad lag races won't work properly, and lack of new content that isn't new content ever since Quicklime Games got shut down, and cheaters wrecking the multiplayer races and wrecking the game overall with their speed hacks, acceleration hacks, the usual hacks, and also auto finishing hacks, which auto finishing hacks is like the cheaters, they just finish the race in an instant. This caused many players to leave the game and quit the game altogether, because what kind of future does a game have when there's no new content coming to the game and there are cheaters, hackers everywhere in the game? What kind of future does a game have? I believe 2014 is the worst year for the official Need for Speed World game. It was really sad and depressing times during 2014 for Need for Speed World, when there was no new content and cheaters running havoc throughout the entire game in 2014. EA must have saw Need for Speed World was dying very, very rapidly with the amount of cheaters in the races and lack of content, that EA decided to get a new development team for Need for Speed World. On September 2014, Easy Studios announced that they would no longer be developing the game, like supporting the game. Instead, other development team called the quote task force will be looking after the game. The task force consists of old former Quicklime devs and new devs. At first, people were skeptical about the new task force, as they had experienced what happened with Easy Studios and that they couldn't do anything about the cheaters and adding new content to the game, and with the in-game cash rotations being broken and such. So yeah, people were skeptical about the new task force. But the new task force had won people's hearts over when they brought back the in-game cash rotations and brought back car sales, speed boost sales, and also they went great lengths to also ban the cheaters from Need for Speed World. People were really skeptical about the task force banning cheaters because, you know, the cheaters, they had lasted from 2011 till 2014. So yeah, people were really skeptical about them banning cheaters, but when their story checked out, they instantly won people's hearts over. People were really happy that the cheaters were finally banned from the game. The remaining Need for Speed World player base started to have fun playing the game once again when all the cheaters were banned. However, the fun was really very short-lived, unfortunately. Just as people thought the game would get better and better, EA announced Need for Speed World will be permanently shutting down its servers on July 14, 2015. The remaining Need for Speed World player base didn't see this coming. After 5 years on the racetrack, Need for Speed World is about to run its last lap. The free-to-play PC action racer will be permanently shutting down its servers on July 14, 2015. Purchases of speed boosts will be disabled as of today. When it launched in 2010, Need for Speed World brought together best-in-class action racing with an unparalleled social experience on PC. However, 5 years on, we feel that the game no longer lives up to the high standards set by the Need for Speed franchise. The steady stream of live content kept our players engaged, but unfortunately we were not able to keep pace with feature development. At this point, the major overhaul needed to bring the game up to speed is not viable for us. So after careful review, we came to a decision to stop development and begin running down support of Need for Speed World.